we can move along to the next fight. We got Jose Delgado taking on Ernie Juarez. And I must admit, this is the fight that I've done the least research on. I believe this was added short notice to this card. And when you're looking at Ernie Juarez, he's a guy that seems to me like a pretty classic wrestle boxer. He's out there, he throws a handful of low kicks, but most of the time he's looking to like take somebody down and bludgeon them. And if they want to get back up, he's trying to punch them again. He's trying to take them back down. Very aggressive guy. He's willing to take the back, look for the chokes as well. On the Delgado side, I saw one fight where he got hit with a right hand that looked like the fight was over in the first, and he was able to rally there, right? He's a tough kid, was willing to get back up. He does a lot of crazy spinning shit in his own right, takes a lot of chances. But when he's on top, he's got good ground and pound. I think that's probably the best part of his game. He's very violent from there. He's pretty controlled as well. Will pass the positions. If I had to criticize Juarez, I think I remember a couple of times in the footage him like falling over the top and getting a little too aggressive. Wouldn't surprise me if he like rocked him, got on top of him, fell over the top, and then ended up getting beat up a little bit underneath. They could kind of beat the shit out of each other. I feel in this fight, a little bit of give and take, but both these guys have a lot of defensive mistakes. Delgado's the bigger fighter here by a pretty substantial margin, but I think that the other guy is not afraid at all to close distance. Juarez, like he understands the assignment, right? He's coming forward, he's swinging bombs, he's going for takedowns, and if he dies, he dies. But it's like that's kind of what it seems like he's going to bring in all his fights. So this also seems to me like a fun scrap. I'm excited to see it play out. We'll kick it to my brother Pierce. How do you feel about this one, man?
Yeah, I'm actually circling back to this before I got put in on this podcast. So I don't have any bets right now, but if I was looking for a bet, it's probably the underdog here and Ernie Juarez. I'm not sure when I'm gonna make a position or if I will, but Delgado's good, man. I mean, he's out of the MMA lab. We got back-to-back MMA lab guys here coming in on short notice. He's good. I mean, the commentary for LFA's last fight put it pretty well. They said he looks like he flows on the feet, and I can't help but disagree. I mean, agree more. The dude strikes well out of both stances, good kicks. He's very diverse. It's almost like he's just, like they said, flowing. He's not really thinking about it. He's just letting it go. And I mean, I think Delgado is a good striker. It's just my issue with this matchup is it's like he's good, but he's kind of can crushing a little bit. And I want to see him extended in fights. And one thing Juarez is good at, well, I think he has a lot of flaws in his game. He's someone that's persistent to march forward, get in your face, and kind of wear guys out. And I guess in theory there could be a Delgado top time path. He could take down Juarez. If I had to point out one thing about Ernie I don't like is he can't get stuck on his back, and I don't really like his get up game. So if Delgado goes to the grappling, that could be an issue for Ernie. But I can't tell if I want to play this pre-fight or wait for a live line because I do think Ernie's success is probably going to be later in the fight. He's going to throw hands early. We saw in his last fight against that Brazilian in LFA. Dude threw down and found the knockout. So I guess if I were to bet this fight, if I like the Delgado side, I'm looking at the under 1.5, which is like plus 165 if you think he's going to steamroll. And then maybe Ernie pre-fight, maybe small, and then look to live bet after 5 minutes.
What an astute breakdown. I'm glad that you popped in, my brother. Gordo, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I actually feel pretty similar on this one. This is a spot where I think if we had a full camp, this fight was one that wasn't announced on short notice, and we looked at both these guys here. I think Delgado is a fine prospect. I think he checks a lot of the boxes, fighting out of the MMA lab. They're having a very good offensive skill set. He'll go out there, he'll be flashy, he'll throw some powerful leg kicks, he'll switch stances, and like you mentioned, the hands down low, he's flowing, he's constantly moving forward. He's being a fun striker, and I think he's a fun guy to get behind. But we have seen flaws in the guy, right? We've seen him not only go out there and be dropped, but we've seen him taken down, we've seen him controlled. And I do think, although he's a very fun, flashy style, the adversity is something that I still like to see him face. Yes, he rallied through in one of them as well, but he's also someone who can be dropped, who can be put in these precarious situations. And I think in a spot like this, when not only is he going up against a guy who's pretty tough and durable, but he's doing this on short notice, it's pretty tough to justify playing him at the price tag he is right now, over minus 300, a guy who is let's say not perfect at this point of his career. I think you look at Ernie Juarez, you guys broke him down pretty well. He's not the most technical, but he'll go forward. His cardio's held up so far. His durability's held up so far. He's going to look to make it dirty. He's going to look to brawl. He'll look to shoot those takedowns. And I think he's a guy who's just been a consistent product. Is he someone who's necessarily going to go out there and be deserving of a minus 300 price tag against nobody? Probably not, but he will go forward. He will make a name for himself. And I do think in doing so, he's someone who's also had a good amateur career and the ability to go out there and perform. So I think in this spot here, it's dog or pass. Like I said, gun to my head, I'd probably lean towards someone like Jose Delgado because he is the flashier A-side product of the two, someone who I do think they could build around. But so many things are going against him here, and I do think that it makes for a very interesting opportunity to bet the underdog this week, especially if this line continues to climb. You never know with these heavy favorites being parlayed early on. So I do think someone like Ernie Juarez is the place I would look to go this week, but it is a very interesting fight.
Absolutely. I think in terms of the concerns for the Juarez side, when you go back and look at the Diego Bigelow fight, just a lot of moments where he's having difficulty, establishing himself over a fighter that has a 2-3, record as a professional at this stage of the game. So obviously it was early on in his pro career. You're looking at guys to develop over time. I think he's shown a little bit of that, but it just showed me he's still a guy that can make some pretty green mistakes. And when you're talking about huge contender series price tags, they're just not really things that I believe in more often than not. There's some times where it's like, this guy's going to take him down. He's going to get every position he wants and he's going to finish the fight. That's kind of what it needs to be for me to believe in these huge prices, right? Because striking just in and of itself, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of variables. There's just shit that could go sideways on you. And when I'm looking at Ernie, he is a guy that is like, probably a little more athletically gifted. He's going to have access to the hips on a taller opponent. So that could open up his takedowns here. But again, if you can't consistently hold down the top position, then it's like you got a big guy in front of you who's willing to go out there and attempt a lot of strikes, a lot of crazy shit too, right? If you're evasive, if you try and stay all the way in or all the way out, if you're all the way out, he's trying to head kick you from a far distance. He's trying to do a lot of things that make it difficult to just relax. Right. And when you're a muscle bound fighter and you use a lot of explosive energy, my other question is like, how does it go if he starts to face resistance here? It's difficult to project, like you guys mentioned, with the short notice elements. But like, if he's not just taking him down and dominating and beating him to a bloody pulp in the first round, then it's like you probably have a Delgado here who's going to continue to make him work over the course of the fight. And we might just see him slow down a little bit. So I don't really feel bullish on these kind of price tags, especially with a guy who doesn't have that many fights against, great opposition. Feels to me a little bit steep. So for me, clear dog or pass situation, but I will watch a little bit more tape. Like I mentioned, this is one that I was taping right before we got on, and least amount of tape I was able to watch on any of these matchups. So not my strongest opinion, but it does feel to me like a unanimous panel saying dog or pass is enough to keep me off the favorite.